Hello everyone, and welcome to A Teacher Explains.
Let's dive into an introduction to mass communication theory. We're all surrounded by media constantly, streaming shows, news alerts, social media feeds. But have you ever stopped to think about how we actually study its impact? Today, we're going to unpack the core ideas that really help us understand how it all works. To really get to the heart of this, we're going to let three main questions guide us. We'll start with the fundamentals. What exactly do we mean by mass communication? Then we'll tackle a trickier problem. Why is it so incredibly hard to study the media in a truly scientific way? And that will lead us right to our final question. What is a theory, and why is it so absolutely essential in this field?
So here's our roadmap. First, we'll define mass communication. Then we'll explore the challenges of studying it. And we'll wrap up by looking at the crucial role that theory plays in making sense of everything.
All right, let's jump right into our first section, defining mass communication. Before we can even begin to analyze the media's impact, we all need to be on the same page about what it is we're actually talking about. So the formal definition is pretty specific. Mass communication happens when an organization uses a technology as a medium to communicate with a large, heterogeneous audience. The key takeaways here are that it comes from an institution, not just an individual. It requires technology, whether that's a printing press or a streaming service, and it's aimed at a massive, diverse group of people. You see this definition in action pretty much everywhere. Take the New York Times, using both printing presses and digital platforms, or Cartoon Network with its broadcast and streaming channels. Even a movie studio like Warner Bros. Fits perfectly, using a huge distribution network to get its films out to the world. They're all very different, but they share that fundamental DNA, an organization using tech to reach the masses. It really helps to think about communication on a kind of spectrum. On one end, you have interpersonal communication. That's just talking to one other person. It's personal, the feedback is immediate. Move along a bit and you get to group communication, a bigger audience, maybe slightly less direct feedback. Well, mass communication is way over on the far end of that spectrum. It's institutional, the audience is enormous, and the feedback is almost always indirect and delayed.
Okay, on to our second section, the challenge of scientific study. This is where we get into the really fundamental difficulties of trying to apply scientific methods to something as fluid as media and society. The core of the problem really boils down to this key difference between the physical and the social sciences. Physical sciences like physics or chemistry get to study systems that are stable, predictable, and follow set laws. But communication is a social science. We study people, and people are, well, they're messy, they're complex, and their behavior is deeply influenced by culture, history, and context. And this raises a massive question for anyone in this field. Can we really apply those same rigid scientific rules to something as complicated and constantly shifting as human society? The philosopher Karl Popper had a very influential take on this. He argued that you can only make true, long-term scientific predictions about systems that are well-isolated, stable, and repeating. Now think about our media environment today. It's globally interconnected, it's changing by the second, and it's full of totally unique events. It doesn't check a single one of Popper's boxes. Popper's argument points to three major roadblocks. First, we have huge measurement problems. How do you accurately put a number on someone's belief or attitude? Second, everything is context-dependent. Behavior changes drastically across cultures and over time. And finally, you have to deal with human reflexivity, the fact that people often change how they act simply because they know they're being observed. So if it's that difficult to study media, how does anyone make sense of it all? Well, that brings us to our final and arguably most important section, the essential role of theory. Theory is the primary analytical tool we have for navigating this complexity. Now, when we talk about a theory here, we don't mean a guess or a hunch. The academic definition is any organized set of concepts, explanations, and principles of some aspect of human experience. So a theory is really a structured framework. It gives us a system for organizing what we see, for identifying patterns, and for moving beyond isolated facts to a more coherent understanding. So what do theories actually do for us? They're incredibly useful tools. For one, they help explain why things happen. They also synthesize huge amounts of data into something manageable. They focus our attention on what's most important. And crucially, they also help us filter out the noise by ignoring what's irrelevant. A good theory is like a map for a complex territory. But here's the catch.
There's no single theory of everything for media. That's because different theories are built on different philosophical assumptions. There are three big ones to know. First is ontology, which asks about the nature of reality itself. Is reality objective, or is it socially constructed? Then there's epistemology, which is about how we acquire knowledge. Do we learn through objective observation or through subjective interpretation? And finally, axiology deals with the role of values. Should researchers stay completely neutral, or should their work be aimed at creating social change? How a scholar answers these questions determines what kind of theory they'll use.
So to wrap this all up, because media systems are so complex, so dependent on context, and changing so rapidly, theory isn't just an optional extra. It is an absolute requirement for any kind of meaningful media analysis. It's what allows us to ask better questions and build a deeper understanding of media's role in our world. This leaves us with a final question to think about. How can these foundational ideas, the definition of mass communication, the challenges of studying it, and the crucial role of theory, help you become a more critical and thoughtful analyst of the media you encounter every single day? And for anyone who'd like to dive deeper, the scholarly sources that inform this explainer are all listed right here for your reference.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel.